We are about to start the final phase of our shortened 1991 Formula 1 season in Automobilista 2. And like the previous race at Spa, this one is an absolute classic track as well. We are at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for the Italian Grand Prix, and we're competing as Pierluigi Martini in the beloved Minardi team. The small Italian outfit was one of F1's most popular minnows, and the early 90s, 1991 especially, were some of their most successful years, as they had a car that was able to fight for one or the other point regularly when the guys and cars ahead were struggling. So today let's try to give Martini and Minardi their second points finish of the season. And this is how we will be going into the race. Ayrton Senna once again starts from pole position, and alongside is championship leader Nigel Mansell. Then in row 2 we have Alain Prost and Riccardo Patrese. Then in 5th we see Gerhard Berger, and for the rest of the grid we have Piquet, Modena, Alesi, Andrea De Cesaris, Bertrand Gachot, Roberto Moreno, Pierluigi Martini ourselves starting from 12th, Gianni Morbidelli, our teammate, just behind us, and then we have Häkkinen, Blondell, Nakajima, Herbert, Comas, Brundle, Boutsen, Gugelmin, Bernard, Suzuki, Capelli, and the Footwork boys once again on the final row of the grid. And here we are on the grid in 12th, just behind Roberto Moreno in the Benetton, and it's lights out and away we go for the 1991 Italian Grand Prix here at Monza. We didn't get the best of starts. Our teammate already trying to make it past ourselves, which he does into the Retifilio chicane. That was very different back in the day, as we have to defend from Marc Blundell in the Brabham just behind us, and we managed to do so. And despite the weather being very sunny and very warm here, we still have a little bit of water on the track, especially in Curva Grande and the Lesmos, as you will see here as we're just going through them. We see lots of spray, as there's still big puddles just at the apex. You've seen it there as well. And we lose a bit in the second Lesmo corner here to our teammate Morbidelli, as we're going towards the Ascari chicane. That one at least is just like it is today. In general, not too many changes or too many differences between the modern Monza track and the classic one that we're using here. It's just the Retifilio chicane being a little clumsy back in the day, and there is a car spinning out, and unfortunately that was Stefano Modena in the Tyrrell, who had a great qualifying and started from 7th, and we were just able to see that in time to not hit our teammate in the back. We had to slam on the brakes there, as we see how we're going into lap 2, the top 6. There have been quite some changes. Mansell has taken the lead from Senna once again, and we will look at that in a second, as well as we will do on the collision with or what happened with Modena, as we just see ourselves making it past Moreno, and we even get a run on Morbidelli, but he closes the door on us, a bit like Leclerc did on Hamilton in the 2019 Italian Grand Prix. Not the cleanest defense of Morbidelli, to be fair, but we are still faster than him, and with a good exit out of the second Lesmo, we are once again faster than him on the following straight, and we make it past, even ahead of Variante Ascari. We see him in our mirrors, but we are late on the brakes, even running a little wide there, but we managed to stay ahead now on the run towards Parabolica. Let's hope that we can stay ahead of our teammate, and I think it looks fine. Yeah, there he is, but we also get the better exit out of here, and we manage to stay in 10th. This is where we're running right now. And as promised, let's look at the start again, and this time it was straightforward. Ayrton Senna once again loses his lead in the first lap of the race already. And this time Mansell just had the better start and made it past in his Williams. But now through Curva Grande, Senna didn't give up that position just yet, as he's trying to make a move towards the Variante della Roggia here. But Mansell manages to stay ahead as he defends towards the outside, which was where Senna was going initially, and then he is already able to pull a little bit of a gap on the Brazilian. And now let's of course look at what happened to Stefano Modena. What a big shame for him, as here he's already running in 7th where he started, and he was close to Gerhard Berger, but here towards the Parabolica he had to let the Cesaris by, and then he makes contact with the one Jordan, and then he even hits Gasho and spins out completely. So, and here we are back at our race, as we are running in 9th, as Jean Alesi, who also was in the group that is fighting ahead of us, he has already pitted, the French Sicilian, and so we were able to 10th after 10th close the gap to these three ahead of us here. This is Berger and the two Jordans. They are fighting for the final points position in 6th, and it has taken us quite a while to catch up to them, but now we were almost able to attack Gachot into the second Lesmo, but this isn't where you should overtake, or a corner where going side by side really works. So we had to lift off the throttle there, and we lost a bit that we're now trying to regain as we run a little bit wide out of the Variante Ascari and into the gravel we go, and this is hugely unfortunate for us, as this lost us probably more than 2 seconds. This is what I would guess. This is a big shame, as we see one of the Jordans coming in. This is Andrea De Cesaris, who of course has his home race here as well, and who is trying to get another points finish for the Jordan team that of course made their debut in 1991, and it was quite an impressive debut, as it was one of the more successful new Formula 1 teams in the late 80s and early 90s, and there are plenty of them, Jordan being one of the better ones, and of course one that remained in the sport for quite a bit. And as we're talking here, we are already catching up back to Berger and Gachot again. This is good news, as that means we are now faster than these two. And we are, this time we are not just maybe a 10th lap faster like it was before, as we are pretty much at the halfway point here already, or maybe even past the halfway point, so pretty eventless first half of the race for us. So after lap 1 there was not much going on, or lap 2, that was of course when we passed our teammate. And now ahead of us we see them battling, and this has been going on for laps, and it was a 4-way battle at the beginning, until of course Alesi pitted, then the Cesaris pitted, and now Berger as well. So we're left with only Bertrand Gachot in the Jordan ahead of us, who of course scored points last time out in Belgium. As we are gaining on him, and this time you can see it visually how we're gaining time, not just on some timing sheets. You can really see how close we are now. And now out of Lesmo 2 we go. And this wasn't the greatest of exits, but the slipstream still is working for us, as we are gaining on him once more. Not close enough to make a move into Ascari, of course. Now get a good exit out of there, but don't go through the gravel once again, and we lose a bunch of tenths here. And now going towards the Parabolica. Let's maybe try to get a good exit out of there at least. Kind of tricky, this corner with this car, was my experience, as it tends to slide a little bit on when you think, yeah, now I have decreased speed enough. It just isn't enough, and we decide that it's time for our pit stop in the next couple of laps. I gave myself this lap here to see if we can make it past Gashor, and if it doesn't work now, we will do the opposite of what he does. So let's see. We are now very close once again, and through Lesmo 1 this is where we can really gain lots of time. And you can see here as well, and this time let's try to get a good exit out of Lesmo 2. A little bit too much speed, so we had to lift off the throttle halfway through the corner, but still not a bad exit. And now the slipstream is really working in great effect as we are side by side going into the braking zone of Ascari, but Gasho is a little bit more ballsy into the corner and manages to stay ahead around the outside. And, well, therefore he has even gained more time. So let's wait if he comes in, and he doesn't. So we decide it is our time to pit, and we do that just now as we are reaching our pit crew. And let's see where this will bring us out. Just the tires. Refueling, of course, not allowed in 1991, but you probably know that if you have seen some of my earlier videos. And wow, out of the pit lane we almost spin the car around because of a lack of traction control. And what we are able to see is that a Lazy went by and De Cesaris went by, but we managed to stay ahead of Gerhard Berger, so we gained 1 spot due to our later pit stop, and are now following a Lazy and De Cesaris. And we were catching them as they are now behind Mark Blundell in the Brabham, who of course hasn't pitted yet. But this is of course our chance. Ahead you can see that a Lazy is trying to make it past through Parabolica, and I think he did manage to make it past. Or is he just making it past? I don't know, the cars are still too small. We're not close enough, but they are together, so he really cost him time. And now, yeah, into Rettifilio now, Lazy made it past. So he is now in clean air again, but behind the Cesaris, who is of course our next opponent, is still behind the Briton in the struggling Brabham team. Of course, Brabham being one of the most successful teams in the late 70s and early 80s. But here they are struggling. And look how much he is holding up the Cesaris, and this even enables us to make it past both of them late on the brakes into Ascari, and we make it past both of them. I didn't expect that, as we just went out of the second Lesmo with kind of a big gap towards them. But we made it past both of them, and now let's see how this looked like in the replay. I have to admit that it felt a lot more amazing in the car than it looks like from the outside. Here we get a good slipstream as Blundell has just held up the Cesaris, and being a little bit later on the brakes than Blundell, we just made it past easily. And a couple of laps later, we were pretty close to Jean Lazy, who is, of course, if everyone has made their pit stop, which is pretty much the case now, as ahead of him was Mika Häkkinen, who I think cost him a bit of time. So Alesi now back in 8th. Oh no, Häkkinen is still there. Häkkinen hasn't pitted yet, sorry. He's still there, but he hasn't cost Alesi a lot of time, as there is still kind of a gap between them. But we are now running in 9th, just behind Alesi, and as I said, if when everyone has made their pit stop, we will be fighting Alesi for 6th, and therefore the one and only point that seems to be reachable for us right now. As well, ahead of us there were no DNFs, but of course this can still change, especially on a track like Monza that is very, very heavy on the engine use. And yeah, we see Alesi now being close to Häkkinen. Häkkinen, one of the 2 cars that hasn't pitted yet ahead of us. The other one, of course, being Bertrand Gachot. We've seen him as we were battling him before our pit stop. And look in our mirror, I didn't expect that, but De Cesaris was able to keep up with us and Jean Alesi. And now Häkkinen goes into the pit lane. We use a little bit of his slipstream to now get a little bit more slipstream from Jean Alesi. And actually, interactive failure, we are able to make it past the Frenchman. And now let's get a good exit out of here and hope that we manage to stay ahead of the drive of the 2nd Ferrari, and it looks good for now. Into Della Roggia, late on the brakes, a good flow through here, and we are still ahead. And we're just starting lap 20, so only 7 laps to go in this race, and we are now running in 6th, as Bertrand Gachot has now also made his pit stop, so we're now up into 6th, but that shouldn't be today, as well, there was a little bit of a lag, and when I just managed to pause the game, this happened, so it was already too late. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to react, but somehow the game still went on, and when it calls itself, we were already inches from the wall, and yeah, being so deep into the race, I didn't want to restart and record it for another time. And I think, well, that's just part of it, right? A technical failure means that we unfortunately don't finish the Italian Grand Prix. So let's just look at the results of this race. And yeah, expectedly, Nigel Mansell wins once again. Senna manages to hang on to 2nd, Piquet then in 3rd, Prost 4th, Patrese only 5th, and yeah, Jean Alesi takes the final point. This, of course, could have been us, but yeah, it should not be today. And for the Drivers' Championship, that means that Mansell increases his championship lead even further. Patrese is still in 2nd. Senna finally moves past Prost and back into 3rd again. Piquet 5th with a strong and very consistent season. Alesi in 6th. And then on the 2nd page, none of those scored points today. So the top 6 in the championships are the top 6 in today's race as well. So Gerhard Berger remains in 7th, De Cesaris 8th, Häkkinen, Gachot, Martini, and Roberto Moreno, the final point scorer so far. And for the Constructors' Championship, of course, Williams in the lead, and it is a massive lead. 74 points compared to Ferraris and McLaren's 28 each. Then Benetton in 4th, Jordan is 5th, Lotus 6th, and then Minardi, the only other team that has scored already. So the others still without any points so far. And that has been it for the 1991 Italian Grand Prix. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did so, leave a like. And yeah, the next race will be the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril. Subscribe to not miss that or any other content on this channel. And Well, I hope to see you all there. Until then, goodbye.